dream warriors. Welcome back to Cynical Scene 77. And I broke out the green lights because today we are taking a look at Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I fucking love this movie. Like, I legit love this movie. Like, I'm literally breaking my rule of a 2-in-1 review because this movie needs to stand out on its own merits. I know this will be really confusing for most people, but this movie needs to have just its own dedicated review. Spooky lighting and everything. Let's jump right in, shall we? What makes this movie so incredible? What makes it one of, if not the greatest horror movie sequel of all time? Well, you have a top-tier Freddy who finds that perfect balance between being scary and fucking laugh-out-loud hilarious. You have an incredible cast of characters, not just Nancy, but everyone puts in great performances here, except maybe Will the Wizard Master, but you know what? He's barely in the fucking movie, so it doesn't matter. But the rest of them, like Kincaid and... shit, what was her name? Jennifer? Kincaid, Jennifer... all those people. Sorry, I'm still blanking on some of their names, but it's great. The kills and gore here, some of the best of not only this franchise, but in all of horror. And the Freddy one-liners just make it even better. You know, let's get high, or welcome to prime time, bitch! That's a line I find myself saying all the time. Especially when I'm watching football, because... I don't know, because I'm just a fucking lunatic. A lunatic that loves horror movies. And not to mention the story here, great. And the way it ties into the first film, great. Yes, I know some people are probably disappointed that it didn't include anything from the second movie, but considering how bad that movie did on its initial release, and it took years to actually be reevaluated by most people, it's understandable why they would just throw it out the window and pretend it never existed. If only they did that with the rest of this franchise. Yeah, I'm just gonna spoil it right now. Nightmare is my least favorite of these three. That doesn't mean it's bad, though. This is a good example of why it's not bad. It is engaging, it is funny, it is dark, it is violent, and it is fucking entertaining from start to finish. This is a very short, sweet, and to-the-point review, just like I just did with Retaliators, because it's a movie that speaks for itself. And it works as a great closing chapter to that first movie's saga, with having Nancy come back, with having her father come back, played once again by John Saxon, may he rest in peace. And I'm not going to spoil it, but the way they end it is poetic, to say the least. And yes, this is the movie where they started throwing a bunch more religious shit into Freddy Krueger's backstory, which is a mixed bag, because when it goes on to the rest of the franchise, it doesn't really work that well, to be honest with you. But that's just me complaining about minor bullshit at that point. This movie is fucking phenomenal, guys. It is a movie I watch every October along with the first film. It is kick-ass, and it is without a doubt an 11 out of 10 movie. And in my opinion, the best Nightmare film of this entire franchise. So join me next time when we start to take a jump off a fucking cliff by taking a look at part 4. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Now, let me make something very clear. My disdain for this movie is not because of the film itself. The film itself is overall fine. My disdain towards it is the horrible jump off a fucking cliff that it started. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Cynical Sane 77. And today we are getting cynical because we're talking about Nightmare 4, The Dream Master. Average. So painfully average, there's no words. This is also the part when Freddy started becoming more funny and less scary, when the plot lines became convoluted as fuck, when the acting started to take a dip in quality, the movie that killed pretty much all the actual Dream Warriors characters. Great fucking start. And if that wasn't bad enough, the whole movie is based around a shitty, underwritten nursery rhyme. Are you fucking kidding? This movie is a painfully average mess. And the fact that you have a whole R-rated horror film, mind you, that revolves all around a fucking nursery rhyme, that could have been something creepy, but instead it's just fucking dumb. This whole fucking movie is dumb, okay? It's dumb. Does it have some entertainment value? Sure. Some of the kills are fine. And there is some decent Freddy parts every now and then. But again, this was the movie that started turning him into a one-dimensional Looney Tune that just loves to kill people. Mix that by taking one of the coolest characters of the last movie and making her worse. And I'm not saying that just because it's not the same actress, okay? Patricia Arquette had a good reason for leaving 3. I think it's because she was pregnant, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I have not researched the backstory on this movie in a while. But this movie is just... it just exists. It's a movie that exists and nothing more. And the reason why I'm doing this as a solo review is because Nightmare 3 was so fucking incredible that it needed to have its own segment. Because I would have been ending that review that started super positively on this bare average pile of shit. Plain and simple. It has its fans, but I am certainly not one of them. Again, just another short, sweet, to-the-point review. Nightmare 4 is a painfully average fucking dumpster fire that started the jump off the quality cliff that led to... Freddy's dead. Final verdict for this movie is a dead average 5. I'll see you guys tomorrow when I talk about what may be 2 back-to-back fucking zeros. Joy. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Well, welcome back to Cynical Sane 77. You're probably wondering, why aren't you doing this at the desk? Well, since the people that made both of these movies didn't bother to try, neither am I. So, today we're talking about Nightmare 5 and 6, 2 of the most abysmal horror films I've ever seen in my fucking life. Nightmare 5 takes all the problems that plagued the painfully mediocre Nightmare 4 and make them even worse. Not only that, they took all the good shit out of it. You don't even have good kills in this movie, you just have a whole lot of garbage. Just non-stop, annoying, tedious garbage. The plot is garbage. Most of the acting here, garbage. Except for Robert Englund, who is still giving it 110%. Not even he can save this fucking pile of trash.
The characters all suck. All the cool stuff that was in the one character that's been through these movies since Dream Warriors is now just as bad as everybody else. The plot? Fucking stupid. About how Freddy is using the dreams of a baby to harm the her friends in real life. The overly political undertones are unneeded. It is completely unfunny. And even the kills suck. Nothing more to say. This movie is a fucking 1 out of 10. A 1. Then we have Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Probably the worst horror film I have ever seen in my life. I would rather watch Thanksgiving over this shit. No fucking joke. Everything about this movie is abysmal, bottom of the barrel horror garbage. Not even Robert Englund can save this movie. Freddy is now a full-on Looney Tune. All the characters suck, the acting sucks, the effects suck, the kills suck, the story sucks, the plot sucks, the writing sucks. Everything about this movie fucking blows ass. It has nothing good for it. Nothing. It has no redeemable aspects whatsoever. It is a piece of shit, and we should all know it's a piece of shit because New Nightmare came out years later and actually somewhat fixed the series until it was then put back in the fucking ground by the god-awful remake. But we'll look at those tomorrow, but until then, thanks for watching. I'm Jack Small at Cynical Scene 77. This movie's a fucking 0 out of 10, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Well, here we are. The end of another franchise, and almost done with this month entirely. Just one game review and one movie review left after this. So let's finish off Freddy, shall we? Let's start with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This movie's pretty good, but it's not anything amazing. Like, it's definitely has more of a historical influence than actual entertainment-wise influence, because this is the first time Wes Craven tried this new meta style, and it ended up becoming Scream. And it works here. I think the entity itself is well designed, is very cool, and Robert Englund, as always, does a great job. I do like how it's trying to be super meta about the actors portraying the characters being the ones that this entity's trying to hunt down. And some of the kills are really good, if a little rehashed, and there's some pretty cool moments that do pay homage to the original films. My problem here is that the story itself is a mess if you try to look at it logically. I don't think you're really supposed to. It's a movie that you're just meant to, like, turn your brain off and have fun, right? It's pretty much what it is. It's a fun watch, but it's nothing really that groundbreaking in my opinion. I'm not trying to crap on Wes Craven, but I'm just saying this is one of the Nightmare films that I do think is a little overrated, because people love to praise this movie, like, a lot. And it's not that amazing, guys. For real. This movie is a final verdict of a 7 out of 10. Now, we end on a turd. On a rotten piece of shit. The Nightmare 2010 remake. Fuck this movie. Fuck it to whatever boardroom in fucking hell that it came from. It is a blatant ripoff of the original. Not even Nancy is good this time. And then it rehashes everything from the original, but this time done in shitty CGI. Everything is low budget, everything is fake, nothing feels real, nothing feels like it's actually has investment from whoever is involved in it. It's just a mess. And Jackie Earle Haley, he was not a bad choice for Freddy, but they gave him nothing to work with. And that god-awful makeup didn't help either. Is there one good thing in this movie? One. And I literally mean one. Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs, is in this movie. And he's just as wacky as you want him to be for the little bit that he's there. But aside from that, boring, meandering, tedious, cliche, and just a total disgrace to the original movie and the whole franchise in general. Phone verdict for this pile of fucking garbage is a 2 out of 10. A 2. I do think Freddy's Dead is worse, but this is still an abysmal pile of shit and is the reason why so many other horror remakes get the reputation that they have, despite some of them, like Friday the 13th 09, for example, not deserving it. Because this fucking movie pretty much destroyed the fact that remakes can be good. Like, this literally came out the year after Friday 2009. Like, come on. For fuck's sake. It was even made by the same fucking company, Platinum Dunes. But they fucked it up. This was a movie they obviously didn't care about, so... You know, why should I care? I don't. That's the end of this review. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the big Halloween spectacular. So, till then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace. There is a sick, demented kind of pleasure someone gets when they discover the movie Dead Alive, or Brain Dead as it's known in the UK. Its birth country. It is a film that needs to be just seen to be believed. It is widely known as one of, if not the, goriest movie ever made. The goriest zombie movie, the goriest horror movie, and just the goriest movie in general. Now, I'm not sure if it still holds that title, because Terrifier 2 literally just came out this year, and that thing... Oof, man. I don't think any of us were prepared for that, but Dead Alive... This is a movie that really just defies explanation. Yes, if you look at it from a logical standpoint, it is a piece of shit. If you look at it from a logical standpoint, which you're not supposed to. You're supposed to look at it as an R-rated, no-holds-barred, super bloody and violent B-movie. With over-the-top acting, over-the-top scares, and even over-the-top gore and effects. But I fucking love it. Let's start with one of the most shocking things people are going to discover when they first see this. That this movie is directed by Peter Jackson. Yes, that Peter Jackson. The Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson. This was one of, if not his very first directorial debut film. And it is something. It definitely goes to show how creative this guy can be. I respect the absolute hell out of Peter Jackson, not only because of how amazing Lord of the Rings is, and how iconic that trilogy has become, in not just film, but in all of pop culture at this point, but also because he's a visionary. He's a filmmaker that knows what he's doing and has spent years honing his craft. And this is a movie that, even though you can only see the earliest signs of that, you still see it. You can tell that everything he does is intentional and is meant for a very stylistic effect and approach. Now, like I said, this movie is bloody, gory, violent, and unrelenting. Not to mention, bat-shit insane. So why did I pick it for 31 Days of Horror this year instead of just waiting for another year when I can just do a whole zombie movie-thon? Well, because A, I'm not sure I want to do an entire zombie movie-thon because there's a lot of god-awful fucking zombie movies out there.
but also because I wanted to do at least one non-franchise related movie this year. And I thought, well, let's do Dead Alive. Let's do a movie that is truly for gorehounds only. Like, if you have a weak stomach that can't handle vicious blood and guts, then you're not gonna like this movie at all. It is not for you. You're going to puke, you're going to feel sick, and it's going to absolutely gross the fucking hell out of you. However, if you're like me, a dedicated gorehound who is pretty much desensitized to this shit by now, then you're gonna find one of the most enjoyable, entertaining, batshit insane movies you'll ever see. Now, I can't really... Now, this movie has no plot, so I can't really explain this as a traditional review that any critic would do. Instead, I'm just going to give you guys my 3 goriest highlights and let you judge from there. Now, granted, I'm just showing pictures here because I'm pretty sure if I showed video, I would get flagged. But this is your warning. If you can't handle even pictures of blood and gore, then stop watching this video right now and skip to the time code right here for the final verdict and for my overall thoughts on everything else, like the acting and etc. etc. Okay? Here's your 5 seconds. Alright. Let's start with the most probably iconic part from this movie. And that is someone's face getting split open by a demon. Yeah, it's that should give you a good engagement of what you're in for. But if that's not gory enough for you, then how about this? An entire guy's bottom half is gone, nothing but skeleton, except for his feet, which remain untouched. You can see the bones, you can see the huge pile of gore underneath of him. And the way they do these special effects is mind-blowing and very impressive. Like, very, very impressive. I wish there was some kind of behind-the-scenes documentary for this movie so we could see how the effects were done. But unfortunately, this is one of those films where it's kind of all just left up to the imagination. And then another one in here that I forgot to include because I couldn't find a good picture is one where a guy gets his entire rib cage ripped out of him while he's actually still alive. Like, my lord, that is... oof. And now we get to the most infamous part of this movie. That's also been dubbed the goriest movie scene, probably of all time. And that would be this scene. The lawnmower scene, as I'm going to call it. Because you have this crazed Brit who grabs this lawnmower and kills every single zombie in that room. And there was a fuck ton in that room if you actually watch the footage. Let me put it like this. Imagine having 5 gallons of fake blood pumped a second for a full, maybe 5-10 minute scene. Imagine that. That is an excessive amount of blood that no one's gonna top. Okay. So for those of you that skipped that, well, welcome to the segment without that gory highlights. And for those of you that actually sat through the gory highlights, you, sir, are a king. Now, the acting here, it's intentionally bad. Like, it's that kind of bad where you can tell that everyone knows what they're in for and they're just having fun with it. Whether you have the Kung Fu priest, I kick ass for the Lord, or these overwritten stereotypes, or just everyone putting in the cheesiest of performances. Even a little zombie baby, who might be the most iconic character from the movie. But this movie is here because of its blood and gore, because of its violence. Because we haven't really had much of blood and guts on this channel, despite it being 31 Days of Horror, because I wanted to knock out the big three right off the bat. And most of those kills, since those franchises are so mainstream, are usually restrained. This was not mainstream. This was super low budget, completely falling under the radar, and the textbook definition of a cult classic. You're not supposed to take it seriously, and it doesn't want to be taken seriously. It just wants to make this most sick, fucked up, demented movie it could possibly make. And I think in that way it succeeds. It is a must-watch for me every October. And again, I have to watch Terrifier 2 to actually say if it's been topped or not, but to my recollection, it is still the goriest horror movie you will ever see in your life. Even if you watched the Romero Dead series, you're still not prepared for what is in store for you when you watch Dead Alive. It is a movie that is going to truly test you. It'll test your stomach, it'll test how much blood and gore you can really take before sensory overload and puking. And most of all, it's going to test you on whether or not you're into cheesy B-movies by its intentionally terrible. If you're not into any of those things, then stay the fucking hell away, because this movie's not for you. It is a movie that is intentionally bad, knows it's bad, and is just being fucking sick and demented in its own way. And for that, I absolutely respect the hell out of it. My final verdict for Dead Alive is a 9 out of 10. Yes, that is mainly in a so bad it's good way, and because the practical effects are so well done here. But I respect the hell out of this movie. I respect Peter Jackson for willing to go this batshit insane. And it really is the definition of a cult classic. This is for the gorehounds only, though. Because if you can't stand blood and guts, then you're not gonna like this movie at all. So, if you can't stand blood and gore, and like I said, if you skipped to the time code that I showed on screen earlier before I got to the gory highlights, then stay away from this movie, because it is not for you. This is a movie meant for the most sick, demented, fucked up gorehounds in all of the horror fan base. But for those of us who can stomach it, it is a fucking blast to watch. It's dark, it's grisly, it's gory, it's hilarious, it is batshit insane, and it is a fucking delight from beginning to end. Well, okay, that's the first part of our big Halloween special done in Cynical Saiyan 77. Stay tuned, because now we got the final game review of the year. We're looking at Dark Watch. So, I'll see you guys later for that review, but until then, thank you for watching. I'm Jack Small, your only Cynical Saiyan 77 and Northern Southern Psycho, and I'll see you next time. Well, here we are. The time has come. We are at the end of October, and thus it is Halloween. And, well, only got one review left. I think you guys are going to like this one. We are looking at probably one of the most obscure, forgotten games of its era, and possibly in all of horror games, period. Dark Watch. Now, this is a game I just happened to get by chance by a mystery bag from a game shop. So, is it worth actually giving a second look? Or should it have just been buried? Well, let's find out, shall we? So, you see the title screen, and you're thinking, oh, okay, this is a first-person shooter, kind of like Resident Evil. Well, not Resident Evil, but you know what I mean. Like, Fear. Like Fear. Well, what if I told you that this game is actually a first person shooter. Huh. Don't know where I was going with that joke. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Anywho, in this game you're an outlaw known as Jericho Cross, and you're here to rob a train after so many other robberies, but it's the train of a rich guy. Well, this rich guy turns out to be more than meets the eye. So you go to this one last train to rob it, and turns out this is actually the headquartered train of a group called the Dark Watch, and you get captured by a vampire that turns out to be #1 on their list, and are forcibly enlisted to join the Dark Watch, but you have a choice. You can either try to find a cure and return to normal, or you can become evil and just embrace your vampire heritage. Either way, you have to kill the guy that bit you. I'm not going to play the cutscene because I want to get straight to the gameplay, so that's your story explanation. Yeah, this game's pretty gory and violent, just to let you know. It has an M rating for a reason. Oh yeah, you can also melee. Oh yeah, you can also fan. It's pretty cool. Alright, so you come to your first boss battle here. Keep shooting this guy. Okay, so you barely beat him, and you're gonna find a way off the train. Okay, so your first mission is to get to the Dark Watch outpost, which is a decent mile away from where you are. Well, decent distance, you know what I mean. So, now that you are there, first you have to ride here on horseback and do this part. I'm just going to skip straight to the actual tutorial stuff so we can get into the real gameplay. Alright. So this is a first-person shooter where you're fighting on whether or not to actually become a vampire. And you're trying to get to the Dark Watch Tower. And then you have to try and kill Lazarus, and it's a whole thing. There's a lot of deep lore that I can't really go into in this video. I'll talk about the controls. The controls are quite smooth and pretty responsive. You can also choose your play style before you even begin the game, because it has different controller styles and stuff like that. I'm using the Chieftain style because I'm so used to A being the jump button. This is your trigger. They got a bunch of different weapons. You can also melee by pressing B. Y is your cycle. X is your reload. The bumpers act as your black and white. Yeah, I'm playing this on 360. Enhanced visuals.
You can also throw dynamite. Oh yeah, some of these guys can shoot back, so be careful. No need a crossbow. Okay, I ran out of ammo. Alright, I'm just gonna end it there because I absolutely suck at shooting games. So let's just go ahead and get to the final verdict. This game is awesome. It's perfect for Halloween. It's nice, gory, and even on easy mode, it's a challenge. So if you're looking for a pretty obscure game that can also be a very fun treat to play on Halloween late at night, get this one. It's pretty good, and I'm pretty sure if you know where to look, you can get it for decently cheap. My final verdict is a 9 out of 10. I love this game. I am so glad I was able to find it. And I highly recommend you guys give it a try. So, that concludes our little Halloween adventures together. I hope you guys enjoyed 31 Days of Horror, and no, I can't end it there. There's another horror series that people want me to talk about. And one that should be in this month. Which one? I redid Mortal Kombat. Well, we've covered a lot on this channel past month. It always seems right that we end it with a classic. Or, more specifically, 6. And if you guys saw the teaser at the end of the last video, then you guys would have all seen this coming, but here we are. It's finally time to talk about Castlevania. The way this is gonna work is I'm gonna have one 5-minute long video for each, and then I'll have a little epilogue at the end. You know, the usual thank yous and stuff like that. So, without further ado, this is also, there is no final verdicts. This is just gonna be me talking about the games. So, just enjoy my special little Halloween surprise. I have some pretty fond memories with Castlevania, let me tell you. It's one of the first horror games I ever played. And to this day, it is one that I play every October. Now, yes, I can't really be accurate about the controls because I am using a controller, like a much more advanced controller than back then. But I will do my best. So, what do I think makes this game so good? Easy answer, it's its atmosphere. The atmosphere and the way it's able to convey its atmosphere with graphics this primitive is still impressive to this very day. It also has great music.
controls, while stiff by today's standards, back then is quite good. Its concept is really good, about hunting down Dracula because you're part of a cursed family that has to do this once every generation. It's an iconic game. There's little to really explain, aside from maybe stuff like that. Yeah, it's a game just all about atmosphere. It doesn't have blood, it doesn't have gore. It just has crazy monster designs, cheap enemy placement, and a lot of just overall insanity. And as far as side-scrollers go, especially during the NES era, this one was very revolutionary. You can argue that without Castlevania, you wouldn't have stuff like Resident Evil or Silent Hill or any of those games, if it weren't for Castlevania. It's not the first horror game, but it's one of the first, and to this day, it still gets highly regarded. Get around these never-ending ghouls. One thing I do have to say I don't like about this game is definitely its difficulty. This game and its two sequels are notoriously known for being difficult, sometimes to the point of outright unfair. What's also unique about Castlevania is that the hearts, which are usually health, are not in this game. Instead, they are your currency. Trust me when I say this is a game that's going to test you. It may look all innocent on the surface, but since this was back before ratings were introduced, you'd be surprised. So you have to fight off these mermen. Ugh, Castlevania 2. Let me just say that the nerd was right about this one from the beginning. This game is bad. Now granted, it still has that Castlevania atmosphere, the graphics are still good, and the music is still great, but its biggest problem is the fact that it is more open and a lot less easier to figure out where to go. This is what the nerd would classify as a where the fuck do I go kind of game. It's a game where you never know where you're supposed to go. And unless you have something like that, you're not going to know what to do. So you just wander around aimlessly. It is a grade A pile of shit. But I think we're all aware of it by now. And that's fucking annoying.
There's only one way to do this game with the power glove.
Oh, Castlevania 3. Widely regarded as the best of the trilogy, and the best Castlevania game on the NES. And for good reason. It went back to what made the first game great, and a pile of shit. But I think we're all aware of it by now. And that's fucking annoying.
There's only one way to do this game with the power glove.
Oh yeah, Castlevania 3. Widely regarded as the best of the trilogy, and the best Castlevania game on the NES. And for good reason. It went back to what made the first game great, and threw out everything that 2 fucked up. So,